Hey everybody, it is Severe Storm Filmer back with another weather forecast. And taking a look here, we have a lot of severe weather coming up in the upcoming days. First, talking about our day 2 slight risk area covering portions of central Kansas, getting down into portions of the northern tier of Oklahoma. The primary threats for this will likely be hail and tornadoes, but damaging winds can't be ruled out here. And then we also have a day 3 outlook for severe thunderstorms, and this would likely support a damaging wind and tornado spin-up threat. I have all that information for you, and we're going to time out those thunderstorms right here, starting with the HRRR model here. You can see going into the time frame of early tomorrow morning. Nothing severe with this yet. We're likely going to have a couple heavy rain showers, maybe a couple rumbles of thunder blowing through Kansas with that. That will likely roll on out of there by tomorrow morning. And then depending on what time the morning convection gets on out of there, or the morning rain or whatever here, I do think there will be some convection here. Depends what the severe weather risk will look like later in the day. And what models like to show here is that they trend much of the rain into eastern Kansas. That's why there's not really much of a severe weather threat over there. That rain will likely stabilize the atmosphere, and that will likely disable thunderstorm development over there. However, on the western side, this is where that slight risk is. We barely are seeing any rain stabilizing the atmosphere. So that's enough time for the atmosphere to recover and again fire up thunderstorms, and that's exactly what happens around 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. here across the Central Plains here. Kansas looking like some hail producers right here. Any of these storms are capable of both hail and tornadoes, maybe a couple downbursts damaging wind gusts, and then those roll on out of here. And then the primary theme for this will be damaging winds as that continues to propagate eastward. And that's exactly what we're going to be timing out now here. You can see as we go into that Tuesday time or that Monday time frame here, you can see we're going to be watching this line of storms very closely here, going into the slight risk area here. And when this arrives, this will likely be producing damaging gusts, some significant near 70 miles per hour or higher wouldn't be ruled out, especially in Louisiana and southern Arkansas here. We basically just have a thin line of damaging thunderstorms producing damaging winds from Shreveport all the way up to Little Rock, and that swath of damaging winds will just continue to propagate eastward. And I think portions like Jackson, Mississippi will get hit if this thing intensifies more. This is the end of the NAM 3KM model run here. But does this intensify before it gets to Jackson, Mississippi? We'll likely have some significant gusts to be talking about here. And I wouldn't be surprised if they added an enhanced risk somewhere in here due to that wind damage potential through the day on Monday, potentially with a significant damaging wind risk. And also, the southern plains and the Gulf Coast aren't the only areas that are going to get severe weather over the course of the next couple of days. We have a marginal risk highlighted for portions of Iowa here for all hazards here. Any of these storms that fire here will likely be capable of isolated damaging gusts, small hail, medium-sized hail possibly. And I do think a slight risk is added in here by the time we get into that time frame. But we're going to have to see how this trends. But anyways, an all-hazard threat day is possible up here in Iowa as well as the Gulf of Mexico. And then as we go into this time frame, we'll likely end the model run here. And then as daylight heating trends downward, we're likely going to start seeing these storms start to dissipate. So I think the building time for these thunderstorms in Iowa won't be that severe. However, we might need to watch again for some storms that will be capable of some isolated all-hazard threats. So we're going to need to keep our eyes on that. But not only does this storm system carry the threat for a couple multi-day severe weather events, this also carries the potential for a blizzard in the northern plains. And we're going to time that out here with the HRRR model as well, as this entire thing comes together with a cold air mass coming out of Canada, and we have warm air rising northward that's likely going to collide. And as long as we have those 30s over there, we're likely going to have a big explosion of heavy snow. And it starts as we go into early tomorrow morning here. We're probably going to see the wind gusts beginning to pick up with this. And then we're likely going to be starting to see a whole entire thing undergo bombogenesis by the time it gets into tomorrow evening. And by the time we get into tomorrow night, we're just talking about a nasty blizzard over portions of the plains, Midwest, and portions of the Great Lakes region. Just a nasty blizzard for this time of year. And we're likely going to have gusts as high as 60 to 70 miles per hour in some places. So we'll likely have blowing, drifting all the way up and down portions of the high plains, getting into the plain states. And this is definitely going to bring some snow accumulations as well. And taking a look at those snowfall accumulations here, you can see, taking a look at this, like these pink areas, like from southern North Dakota into portions of western South Dakota. That's a great area to experience upwards of 10 to 12 inches of snow. We're not going to be seeing 16 inches like the model showed yesterday because we're likely going to have a ton of wind with this again. And we're likely going to have blowing, drifting factoring into this. So we're likely not going to see direct accumulations. However, just because there's not much accumulation as before doesn't mean the storm is not going to be severe. Alright, there is going to still be a blizzard with significant damaging winds upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour. And we'll likely have that sustained. It's going to be like a hurricane almost up here for portions of Minnesota and the Dakotas, and that will likely allow that snow to blow around. And as a matter of fact, I do think we will likely begin to start seeing blizzard warnings popping up in these regions by the time we get into tomorrow and Monday. So we're going to need to watch that closely. But yeah, that was definitely an intense snowy side of the system. But the thing that's driving the entire storm system is going to be the wind, all right? And what happens here is that we're going to have a significantly strong and significant uptick in the wind by the time we get into tomorrow morning here. And when this storm starts to undergo bombogenesis, watch what happens as we go into this time frame. We're already going to start seeing damaging gusts from Kansas into Iowa here by the time we're getting into tomorrow 5 p.m. Some of this will be with snow, some of it not, but this is not the blizzard yet. The blizzard doesn't undergo bombogenesis until early Monday morning, and when this happens, we're going to have a direct swath of 30 to 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts here, and I wouldn't be surprised again if we saw hurricane-like conditions in any of these areas through the day on Sunday and Monday. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got near 70 mile per hour winds up and down these regions either. And again, this is not going to be an accumulation event. This is going to be a wind and blowing, drifting event. Alright, so I want you guys to take the necessary precautions and stay off the roadways if you are traveling into Nebraska, Minnesota, or the Dakotas, really, as we go into that time frame, because there is going to be a really big blizzard going on in those regions. So stay safe, everybody. But we also not only have a blizzard and severe weather that's going to be ongoing here in a couple days, but we also have a winter storm ongoing across the Northeast actually right now at this time here. And you can see heavy snow coming down all the way from Maine all the way down into northern PA high plains here. And this will just continue blanketing the Northeast with very heavy snow. This is a very big winter storm that will likely put down feet of snow over that region right there. And we're also going to be watching the glaze and the ice as well. There could be some heavy ice down here, so please keep your eyes on that if you live in Concord or Portland as we go into that time frame. And then as we continue this time frame, snow still battering portions of Maine New Hampshire, portions of Vermont getting out of that finally. But this is a significant snowstorm that's going to continue hammering Maine until really early tomorrow morning. All right, so it's 12 p.m. right now, 12:30 p.m. EDT right now on March 23rd, and basically we have snow coming down, and this is almost a 12-hour period. Actually going to be 14 more hours of snow coming down in portions of Maine. All right, this is going to be a very significant snow event, and things finally begin to cool down as we go into early tomorrow morning around 4 or 5 a.m. Thankfully, we will likely have this thing on out of here by the time we go into late tomorrow morning. But I think the hot spot for all of the precipitation will be in Maine. And taking a look at the snowfall accumulations, guys, holy cow. Look at this, 23 inches in portions of northern Maine. All right, I wouldn't even be surprised if we got up to almost 2 feet in some of these regions too. And we actually do get a little over 2 feet here. Look at that, 25 inches, 26 inches right there. But if you look across the entire Northeast, guys, I'm going to put some numbers on here. There we go. At least somewhere is going to get at least a snowflake of snow in this entire circle region. All right, if I circle you now in this bluish, pinkish shade, this is 5 to 10 inches of snow. All right, and if I circle you in this purple and pink, this is 6 to 12 inches of snow. So meaning we're at 1 foot in portions of Vermont getting into New Hampshire. And by the time we get into this time frame, now we're talking about 12 to 18 inches of snow. And then we go over here in the small little shades here, we're upwards of 2 feet or more. So yeah, pretty significant snowstorm, guys. Pretty significant numbers here. You can see that right there. So I'm definitely going to be tracking that as that continues to move on out of here. But yeah, pretty big snow is on the way for portions of the Northeast and the Plains. So just be aware of that as we go into the next couple days. But now that we're done talking about the short-term models, let's talk about long-term here. And you can see there goes that winter storm off to the north here. There's our blizzard and our severe storm setup that we have in portions of this region for the daytime hours on Monday here. This will likely continue to propagate eastward, and again, this will likely be a significant damaging wind threat all the way up and down the Arklatex region, potentially getting into Missouri and Iowa as well. And then you can see blizzards still ongoing on the northern end of this low. This will likely bring blowing snow to portions of Minnesota, and then things begin to calm down here, and then this whole thing begins to traverse eastward. I wouldn't be surprised to get a severe weather threat down here, or I'm sorry, cut off in the East Coast here in portions like Alabama and Georgia, maybe even portions of Florida as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, but we're just going to have to see how things flow because models like to tear the system apart by the time we go into that time frame. But by the time we get into Thursday afternoon, we have basically another system that forms itself on the oceans here. This could potentially bring a threat for severe weather, a small threat though, to South Carolina and North Carolina here, though anywhere north of this low will likely be getting a cold rain. But areas in south of the low, like portions of Georgia and Florida, may potentially need to watch out for a couple isolated severe storms from this. And by the time we get into this time frame, this will go up the East Coast. Does this become a nor'easter? That's certainly a question I do not know how to answer right now, but we'll figure it out as we go closer into that time frame. And then as we go into the last few days of March here, looking at a small little system here that could potentially bring some rainfall to portions of the Great Lakes. Could this be some snow? Potentially. And then as we go into this time frame as well, we'll likely be watching yet another big system by the time we're ending March here Is this going to be as intense as it looks right now? Probably not, but we're going to have to watch it because the models have been showing trends of painting potentially a pretty significant severe weather event for the north and potentially a snow event on the back side of that. Not nearly as intense as this one looks right now, but by the time we're getting into the first day of April, this is the setup the European model likes to show here. Severe weather all the way up and down the Arklatex, getting into Missouri here, and then potentially Illinois. And then the model, of course, shows this traversing eastward. However, something to keep an eye on here. This could potentially be our first Gulf Coast to Ohio Valley storm system where we get a pretty big damaging wind event. We're going to have to watch that as we go into early April because things are looking to trend a little on the severe side for the north as we go into that time frame. And could this be a first for Kentucky and Pennsylvania as well? It certainly could. So we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that as we go into that time frame. But yeah, all indication, guys, is that we get super active in the north as we go into the April time frame. And taking a look at our jet stream trends over the course of the next couple weeks here, you can see currently have a pretty big ridge overcoming much of the United States here. This is keeping us quiet except for portions of Florida where we have an active subtropical, or in other words, a Pacific jet, and we are having some thunderstorm action down here. So we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that. Maybe a couple tornadoes, but nothing really too much to point out of that. But as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow, here comes that next piece of energy that we're likely going to be watching here. And you can see pretty small piece of the polar jet here, so I'm not really anticipating any two major cold blasts in the near future, so that's good news. But we could see a couple bumps in the upper jet stream, so we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that. And that's exactly what we're seeing as we go into Monday afternoon here. Pretty big dip in the upper jet stream here. It's a pretty big trough. I don't think this is going to bring much below average temperatures. However, it will likely bring a cool down to much of the plain states as we go into that time frame, and will likely have a damaging wind event along this frontal boundary as well. We talked about that at the beginning of the video as we go into that time frame. So as we continue this here, you can see as we go into Tuesday, all of that energy will move east and will likely still have the trough in the central plains. We'll have a low centered in portions of central Canada, and we'll likely still have that Gulf moisture surging really far north for this time of year, and that's likely going to allow for the potential for some severe weather moving eastward into the Gulf Coast region through the day on Tuesday. Then as we go through the day on Wednesday and Thursday, things start to die off, and then by the time we go into this time frame, here comes our next piece of energy. And what catches my attention is that by the time we go into late March, like the last day of March into early April, we have a super big trough digging into portions like the western United States and the central plains, and we also have more moist air surging northward. So could this be a potential significant severe weather event for the north? It certainly could as we go into this time frame. Look at how strong this piece of jet energy is coming out of the south for portions of this region. All right, so we have warm air surging northward as far north as the northeast as we go into early April. So that is something to keep an eye on. Pretty big storm systems in the near future, it looks like. So we're just going to have to keep our eyes on that. And all we have to do is watch and wait because obviously models change and weather changes. So we're just going to have to see how things trend going into that time frame. Alright guys, that was it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're not already. Have a great day, everybody.